Alright, the project today is trimming up some king palms. We're using a ladder here. Yep, that's right, breaking rule number 1, using a ladder to trim a tree. So my position on trimming king palms is they are self-pruning palms. They don't have to be trimmed, it's only for aesthetics, where the queen palms won't prune themselves, so they need to be cleaned up for tree health. And in this case, I don't really like to use the gaffs and spur the tree because it doesn't really need it. So in this case, I'll use a ladder, climb up, make sure that it's tethered and it's safe, trim the tree without causing any additional damage. So the main thing trimming king palms, they're really easy to cut. They don't have a lot of fibrous material inside, so they cut really easily with the handsaw. And the main thing here is to do most of the cut, and then the last 1 or 2 strokes of the saw you do pretty quickly, and then they won't hang up or fall or anything and cause some sort of unsightly damage. In this case, I didn't do that, and it pinched my saw blade. These backside cuts are a little bit annoying because you don't always have the best sight line, and so it looks good from this side. I come around to this side and see that that cut wasn't really flush to the trunk, so I have to come and touch it up on the second cut. That's just the nature of a backside cut though. These palm fronds are a little bit more rigid than a queen palm, and when they fall, they usually fall pretty neat. They kind of glide right down like an airplane wing. In this case, we're seeing how I tether the ladder to the tree so it doesn't slide. I'll have one side of the ladder up against the tree and then come in with the strap and tether the ladder to the tree so it can't slide, fall back, tip forward, or anything like that. Once you get up here and kind of get playing around with it, the ladder doesn't really move once it's tethered. I'm just cleaning off a couple remnants here. Those are remnants from the old seed pods that just weren't pulled off. And that's what happens if you don't do those last 1 or 2 cuts really quickly. These seed pods like to drop flowers all over the place if you don't catch them. The trunks are always so smooth on these palms as well. In this case, that frond, I didn't do the last couple cuts really quickly, and it fell, but because it's so small, it didn't really fall all the way down. And there we have a little string that got left behind. In the background you can see a little strip of dirt where I'd run my bobcat previously and ripped out a bunch of bushes. I'll link that video in the description. I wish cleanup was this fast when we're doing it in real life. The one thing about palm trees is they end up making a lot of volume of waste with their palm fronds. Just doing a really small trim of a couple trees can easily fill up a huge volume of material. This is another set of palm trees. Because of the ground positioning, it wasn't really safe to use the ladder, and so we're using the pole saw here. The pole saw is definitely a compromise. It doesn't allow the same amount of control as the hand saw, but it's better than fallen. So we see in this case and in the following palm fronds that the pole saw doesn't really allow for that really quick last 1 or 2 cuts, and so all these palm fronds are going to kind of fall down to the trunk and then they'll be cut off the rest of the way. As we'd expect, using the pole saw, it doesn't create as clean of a cut. The cuts aren't as close to the trunk, but safety has to come first. In this last set of king palms, we're using the Milwaukee M18 pole saw. So this is a 10-inch chainsaw mounted on their power head, and it cuts through really easily. King palms cut really easily in general. The difference here with the chainsaw, the chain speed is a little bit slower on the pole saw than it is on a traditional chainsaw, and a lot slower than a gas saw, and it ends up leaving a rougher cut behind, almost like they were cut off with some sort of sander or die grinder rather than a saw. In the very first set of palm trees, we saw that the cuts were super clean using that hand saw, and in this case the cuts are a lot more chewed up. So trying out all these different methods, the hand saw up in the tree is definitely the cleanest, fastest, neatest cut, both getting it close to the trunk and also cleaning up the cuts. The other two are necessary options if you don't have the ability to get up into the tree.